Hello, everyone. This is Richard Latowski, co-founder and CEO of madVR Labs. We recently provided a sneak peek to our upcoming Dynamic Subtitle Overlay feature, and we've been getting a lot of questions and comments of people wanting to see it in action. So it's really has been very well received, and there's a lot of excitement about it. And I thought I would go through and give you some examples so that you can see it running. So what we have here is a scope movie on a scope screen with dynamic subtitles currently on, using just the default setting of moving the subtitles into the content area. So just to clarify, if I turn the subtitle handling off, if you did not have any NV subtitle handling on at all, this is what you would have. Notice that the bottom subtitle is missing. That's because it is in the black bar area, and the black bar area is zoomed off the screen, as you would expect when you are watching a scope movie on a scope screen. So that is the challenge number one with dealing with subtitles that in scope content appear in the black bar. So when there are subtitles in the black bar, at least partially, Dynamic Subtitle Overlay is able to bring them into the content area like this. Now, for those of you that are familiar with the NV, for the past few years, we've had our subtitle management, which has been extremely effective and a very beloved feature for many of our users. And you can see if I turn that on here, it's now called Zoom Image, then it goes ahead and shrinks the image so that the black bar comes back onto the screen with the subtitle. And that's actually been very effective. However, some users are distracted by the subtitles causing the image to shrink back and forth, okay? Because you will see it do this to this, and then back to this when the subtitles go away. And so we set out to create Dynamic Subtitle Overlay to address that issue by moving the subtitles into the content area without having to shift them. And so this is a good example. If we go from here with the subtitle missing, and we actually remove the pixels, fill them in, and then bring them back on, you can almost think of it as a very advanced cut and paste. We bring the subtitles back up. So this is step number one, as we like to call it. And this is the most basic, but yet very highly functional improvement that DSO provides, being able to bring the subtitles back in. And I should also mention that it is the same on the top as it is on the bottom. So if you have closed captionings in either location or subtitles in either location, being the top or bottom, they work independently and the same way. Now, another challenge that we often hear is that subtitles can appear too bright, especially in dim scenes. So what we have here is probably a mid to lowish APL scene, average picture level. And so we have our brightness limiter. And when I turn that on, you'll see the subtitles automatically dim appropriately for the APL of the scene. And the idea here is that a very dark scene can have the subtitles appear less bright so that you can still read them without any issue, while a very bright scene, they would become much brighter, if not full brightness, and anywhere in between. So this is not like a specific low, medium, high. This is automatically set based on the APL. This is key also for a couple reasons. Number one, when subtitles are this bright, it can be quite glaring and distracting. So this is going to cause eye strain for a lot of people, especially when they are at, an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours into a movie. The other thing that this does is that if you have a projector system, it fills the room with a lot of light unnecessarily, and that light winds up scattering and back on the screen and affects your contrast. And additionally, when you have subtitles that are too bright, it can impact the dynamic black capabilities of your projector, if it has such capabilities. So for example, if you had a very dark scene that was taking place in a cave, let's say it was 20 nit scene, the projector, using its dynamic black, may be able to say that it only needs, let's say, 15 or 20% of its laser level, or 5 or 10%, whatever that capability is. So instead of running at 200 nits or 250 nits or whatever it might be, it's able to drop that laser level down that's sufficient to cover the 20 nits needed for that scene. However, if you have super bright subtitles, then the projector or the dynamic contrast of the display may not know that those pixels are related to the subtitle, and instead it sees it as a higher APL scene, and it can impair the functionality of the dynamic black. So that's another big benefit of having the brightness limiter. Now, the other thing that we often hear is that subtitles can appear larger than people may prefer. And this has a couple of effects. Number one, if they're bright and large, then you have that much additional brightness filling the room. It can also be harder to read in a sense, because when they're too bright and too large, it's that much more light glaring into your eyes. And the other thing is, it can obfuscate more of the screen area unnecessarily. So we have the option, as you can see here, to reduce by 5% increments up to 30%. So I'll go ahead and do that in steps of 5% so you can see the effect that that has. Okay, now let's loop back to the beginning. And there's your difference between 30% reduction and no reduction. So for now, I'll just stick it on 25%. Now, the other thing that we do is we have adaptive color. And so you can pick whatever color that you want, should you want to use a specific color from this list that we have. However, the setting that's been getting a lot of attention and a lot of great feedback is adaptive. And the way adaptive works is it looks at the color palette on the scene and picks a color that is most harmonious to the actual scene. So the benefit here is that you have subtitles that are still very easy to read, yet blend in beautifully with the scene. This makes them far less of a distraction if you're watching the content. So if I go ahead and switch that back to white, it still looks nice, but if you put it on adaptive and let's close the menu, you can just see that that compared to this may be preferred by some. Because a lot of times people want the subtitles on for when they need them, but they're not necessarily reading them the whole time. And so the less that they stick out and the more that they blend in, the better. So let's just look at a quick comparison. If we right now have all the features on, I should also mention that you can control, it's a dark scene, so it may be hard to see, but you can control the background brightness, or I should say the transparency of the background box up to 90%. You won't see it doing much here since it's a pretty dark image to begin with where it is overlaid. And so if I go ahead and now turn this off, that would be the NV's previous subtitle handling. This is with Dynamic Subtitle Overlay with various options turned on. And again, this would be without any subtitle handling, where it looks like it does with the MV1, except without the bottom subtitle being visible. Now, what I'll do is I'll go ahead and play this so that you can get a look at how it looks in action. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and pause it here for a second, just to also put in perspective. This is a good look to get a sense for how the ability to control the size is really helpful, as well. So if I go ahead and if I turn off subtitle handling, it's gone completely because it's in the black bar. And the black bar, as you recall, is zoomed off the screen. If I go back to the old school way, you can see that it is significantly larger and significantly brighter compared to with Dynamic Subtitle Overlay. Now I'll go ahead here and I'll advance to the scene. And you'll notice with the blue pull, take a look at what happens with the text. And as it switches over, now it's actually become a little bit lighter, a little bit more gray as this scene has switched over. And to also put this in perspective, let's do a quick comparison. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at Dynamic Subtitle Overlay in another movie, just to give another example. So this is it on without all the various features on. I'll go ahead and put the brightness limiter on. I will put the adaptive text color, and I will reduce it by 30%. Let's go ahead and pause this and just take a quick comparison. Again, without any subtitle handling, this is how it would look. And with the previous NV solution, where we brought the black bar up, this is how it would look. Okay, let's take a look at another movie. And this is with Dynamic Subtitle Overlay on with the brightness limiter, adaptive text color, and size reduction of 30%. Now you may notice the subtitles moving from left to right. The Dynamic Subtitle Overlay does not adjust the subtitle movement horizontally. So those are where the original subtitles are being placed by the media player. I'll go ahead and switch this over to here so you can just kind of see for a moment the comparison. This is with the old NV subtitle handling. And now let's go ahead and go back to DSO. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at one more movie. This is with Dynamic Subtitle Overlay on. Now I'll go back to our older subtitle handling. Now back to having no subtitle handling. And finally, back again to Dynamic Subtitle Overlay. So we hope you enjoyed this sneak peek at our new Dynamic Subtitle Overlay feature. Thank you so much for all the incredible interest and support. We truly appreciate it. There's a lot more news and video content coming soon about DSO, so be sure to stay tuned. We can't wait to bring this innovation to you or to an envy near you very soon. Thanks again for watching.